we're going to transition to talk about the initial reason why we were here, to talk about Marvel and everything that's going to be coming out in 2023. There's a lot of projects coming from Marvel, both from Marvel Studios proper within the MCU, but also some other things coming from the Sony side of things and some video games that we want to highlight as well. It's going to be a big, massive year for Marvel, as it typically always is. Before we get into the specific projects and, sort of run down our thoughts and how we're feeling about things at this current state and time, I just want to ask you, how do you feel about the state of Marvel at this particular moment in time? We talked a lot about Phase 4 before the end of last season and recapped everything that we saw. The MCU is in a really interesting place where it's more divisive than ever. I think we've had more conversation about the quality of projects than we have in the past. And so now we're entering Phase 5 very soon here with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. We're building towards the crossover events really soon here. And then you have on the other side of town, Sony still creating these random projects seemingly of Spider-Man spin-off characters and villains, but they are moving full steam ahead with a lot of stuff. How do you just feel about the state of Marvel and where things are heading over the course of this upcoming year?
I feel like, of course, you get that first phase of Marvel, and that is, of course, a very experimental phase that they're doing there. And as we moved into Phase 4, we were all like, okay, but now what? The Infinity Saga is over. Thanos is no more. What are we doing? And in a lot of ways, Marvel had all these ideas of things to do, but with characters they no longer that people no longer really knew about. How do we introduce these new characters? That it's different going into Phase 1. Phase 1, you can say, hey, everybody, this is Captain America. Everybody knows who this is. You can't do that in Phase 4. And so I think it was very tricky for them. It was a reset button for them to try to figure out new ways, given Disney Plus, of how to introduce new stories and new characters to their fans. And that is kind of the way we also ended the phase, right? And I think it was experimental phase for them. And now going into Phase 5, I feel like Marvel is in a place where they have all that information. They have soaked up Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. They have soaked up WandaVision. They have soaked up Loki and Miss Marvel. They have now soaked up all these projects to now say, okay, let's fine tune the nitty gritty. We still got some people to introduce. We still have some characters to introduce. We still have some stories to tell. But now people know who our big bad is for this next set. People, maybe we figured out this Disney Plus thing. There are TV shows coming that we think people shoot. They knew that Loki season 1 did pretty decent. Look, we know Loki season 2 is coming. I think they figured some of that stuff out. So I think their state of being right now was, okay, now we had our hypothesis. We did our experiment. We got our results. Let's try to turn it over and try to fix everything that people didn't like. Clean up some stuff that we didn't even like. There was visual effects stuff happening. There's a lot going on in Marvel in Phase 4. I just think this is the phase. They're in a spot now where they're like, okay, let's show the people again what we have. That is what I'm hoping that this next phase is. That is what I'm hoping we're moving into, is a new age of, don't worry, Marvel is still here. And I'm hoping that's what this is.
It's going to be really pivotal that people once again buy into Marvel as a brand, Marvel Studios specifically, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That love had sort of dissipated with a lot of fans over the course of Phase 4. We had never received so many projects before. Disney Plus was a brand new experiment. The specials, animation, the expansion happened so quickly. And I think in hindsight, playing Monday morning quarterback, maybe it would have been more advantageous to take one new medium and slowly roll it out over the course of multiple phases. Maybe Phase 4, we focus on the Disney Plus series. Then maybe Phase 5, let's introduce animation. Then maybe Phase 6, we can introduce specials. But I know in this day and age, we don't really live in that luxury of time. These studios, these massive corporations and these CEOs, they want to see results and they want to see them now and they want to see it instantly. What are we going to produce? How much of it can we produce? Give everything you got and roll it out as quickly as possible for as little money as possible. And I think we saw the results of that twofold from a lot of these projects across Phase 4, which is unfortunate, but that does not deter my hope and my thoughts about what they can still produce over the course of Phase 5 through this year, and of course through the next few years with the rest of Phase 5 and of course Phase 6. So we'll have to see what that looks like. Outside of Marvel Cinematic Universe, Sony, as we have alluded to with just news announcements, you don't really know. You just don't know what the plan and what the point is. I think outside of the animated Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse franchise, we just kind of
Hmm.
sit there, look at it and say, okay, I guess we're going to do a villain spin-off movie. That is like the new in thing, to take a popular or somewhat popular villain and give him a spin-off with good reason, at least from their perspective. They did make Venom, and those made a lot of money. The first one makes
Yeah.
over 800 million worldwide, exceeds all expectations. The second one comes out, makes over 500 million worldwide, still in the throes of the pandemic. So I get the thinking. You just want to hope that the quality is going to be there to produce some really good movies, because Morbius sucked ass. It was a terrible movie. So we can't really go into that territory again. I want us to make sure that we're still focusing on quality and not just putting out shit for the sake of having it.
Hmm.
So more dubious about the Sony projects and the Sony side of things outside of the animated stuff, but time will tell what that all looks like. But let's get into it. Let's run down these projects and get to them. First up, of course, in a couple of weeks here, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania will finally be releasing from Marvel Studios, coming out February 17th. Peyton Reed is back in the director's chair. We're going to get the introduction of Kang, who is the big bad for this upcoming phase. We know he will be the villain in at least Avengers: The Kang Dynasty. We'll have to
Hmm.
see if that continues into Secret Wars, but they have hyped him up so much as being the next one up after Thanos and what we saw in the Infinity Saga. Jonathan Majors is coming here in a big way after being first introduced in Loki a couple of years ago. Ant-Man has typically been one of the smaller scale efforts in
Hmm.
terms of movies that they've done. I think I've associated, and many people probably have associated it with being a palate cleanser for the MCU. Ant-Man
Mm.
1 came out after Avengers Age of Ultron, which is like the more serious film.
Yep.
Ant-Man and the Wasp came out after Avengers Infinity War, which is a really down movie that left all of us shook and just like wondering what the hell is going on here. I don't know if that's really the case now. Ant-Man and the Wasp:
Hmm.
Quantumania is being treated as a huge Avengers level style movie. Peyton Reed has expressed that that's what he wanted. What do you want out of this movie, man? Are you excited for it? What do you want to see? What do you hope ultimately this film tells us about the future direction of Phase 5 and beyond in the MCU?
Man, it tells us that we're about to get Kang the Conqueror. The biggest thing about all this is that we're getting Kang the Conqueror, right, man? One of the biggest Marvel villains of all time. I am pretty elated for what's about to happen in this theater. I think Thanos is one thing. I think, when Josh Brolin shows up and then you're just like, oh shit, this dude is crazy. But now I think we get to experience this super. Thanos is very black and white in terms of I'm about to snap half the universe. Kang he's so different, man. There's so many of him there, and is being played by Jonathan Majors, who is a very he's a colorful actor. Like he can do anything in a lot of different respects, right? Jonathan Majors has never had a box when it really came to any of the roles that he's ever been in. And I think they did that on purpose. And I think this is telling us that as different as this phase is, Kang is representing that. Kang is like, look, y'all, I'm weird. I'm not Thanos. But I'm still here to take over with Baz and do whatever that I'm here to do. And I think it's a great set the tone kind of movie, hopefully, that this is going to be, man. I'm excited for it. But like as you said, if Ant-Man is the palate cleanser, and now you're telling everyone maybe not so much anymore. You know what I mean? Like one of the things I really love about the Ant-Man trailer is Kang is just punching this nigga, bro. Like Kang is just punching it. And I'm like, yes, yes, give me some old fashioned, I'm here, I'm just gonna punch you and kind of whip your ass type thing. That's one of my favorite things from Thanos is just giving Hulk the hands. To be honest, is like that's one of the favorite things. And so I love that you can still give us some of that old school with the weird. And I think that's part of what Ant-Man the Wasp is. This is one of the few characters that's carrying over. That's the familiar, but the Quantumania, that's the weird. The Kang, that's the weird. And so I love this mix that they're giving us here because I think it's going to fit the bigger picture, not only again within Quantumania in this movie, but with who Kang is going to bring us as a villain as these phases progress.
Ant-Man has been one of the few franchises in live action superhero storytelling over the past, 20 some odd years that really focus on family. We don't get to see that often. And I think that that's
Mm-hmm.
been one of the hallmarks of these Ant-Man movies is at their core, they really are about family. It's about Scott Lang trying to connect with his daughter and he has hope, and these parents are a part of it. So I love that that's going to continue seemingly in this film. But more than anything, I want to know what the fuck is going on with the Avengers? What are we doing? Where are they? Is the Avengers a thing? Is it a team? Is somebody trying to get them back together? Is Captain America Sam Wilson out there slowly but surely putting together a contingency plan? Is there some sort
Mm-hmm.
of up? Like, what are we doing with the Avengers? We need the Avengers. It's time. Phase 4, we basically heard nothing about the Avengers. There were a few
Mm-hmm.
name drops, but that's incredibly important when you talk about the connective tissue between these projects and also getting people excited and
Yeah.
instilling the faith that they have to continue on with this experiment to see like, okay, we know at some point they're going to come because like right now, what are the Avengers?
Mm-hmm.
In this universe right now, as it is constructed after Avengers Endgame, that was it. That was the end of the Avengers. And I think we've been long doubting like what the presence of that was going to look like. And I think that this is the time and this is the movie to say, there's something here about the Avengers. It doesn't obviously have to be the whole team showing up. I'm not expecting that, but I need something that's in this movie to say like that's on the way. That is going to be coming very, very soon here. Just stick with us a little bit more, follow along, and you will see it paid off in spades when that movie does eventually come. So that's what I need out of this. Let's move on to Secret Invasion, which is going to be a series on Disney Plus. We've gotten one trailer for the series. Samuel L. Jackson is going to be coming back as Nick Fury. This is obviously going to be adapting the very popular Secret Invasion comic line, but I think it's going to be a lot different than what we expect, which Marvel Studios is notorious for adapting things to a very, very high degree. A lot of things that they pull over from the comics, there are certainly some resembling factors, but it seems that this is going to be scaled down and more intimate, I think, compared to the comic line, because that run had a ton of characters and had massive implications. This will likely, but I think it's just going to be a lot different than what we're probably expecting. There is a brief premise that's out there which says, quote, a faction of shape-shifting aliens, the Skrulls, have infiltrated all aspects of life on Earth, end quote. That doesn't tell us shit. We knew that. So don't really know what to expect out of the series, but it does seem to lean more into the spy espionage flavor that first we're really introduced to within the MCU in Captain America Winter Soldier. I think that they're bringing that back for this particular series. Super excited for it. I know it was also in your top 5 most anticipated series for this year. What do you this project? What are you hoping to see?
Man, pretty much that espionage, man. We've gotten again a little bit of hints of what Marvel espionage TV show could bring, but knowing that Samuel L. Jackson is at the forefront, knowing that the people that are part of this this TV show are like just tremendous actresses and actors, Olivia Colman and Kingsley Ben-Adir, like these are people that I look at and I'm like, y'all in a Marvel movie? Like you see it on paper and you just don't see Marvel movie. You know what I'm saying? But then you tell me it's a Marvel movie and I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm interested. Like, what are we really doing here? Kind of type thing. And so I think Secret Invasion just has the potential to subvert expectations of what we gotten so far out of the MCU. I'm looking for, to be honest, I am looking for some whatever spy espionage means, but the Marvel version. I am looking for 007 and Mission Impossible, and I'm looking for all these things within the Marvel context. And I think that they can make me feel that, and that they can give me that in a TV show sense, man. You telling me week 1 is like only thing I'm looking for that I'm scared about this TV show, you got to give me an hour. Like you tell me it's a Secret Invasion, spy espionage, Samuel Jackson, all these crazy actors. You got to give me an hour. Like give people time on screen.
A
let them
real
act.
Hour, not 38 minutes plus 7 minutes of credits, right?
The longest credits ever. They're usually beautiful credits, don't get me wrong, but they be the longest credits ever. But yeah, man, that's what I'm looking for. I think it can give us a different look of what it can show us how mature the MCU can be. I think this is the show that can show us what that maturity looks like. Sure, Infinity Saga kind of showed us that. Sure, as far as we know, Quantumania can show us that. But this feels more a little bit. Of course, there's like people shapeshifting. Don't get me wrong, but I still feels like this is the explosions and the cars chases and this feels like that stuff to me. Like people shapeshifting in a spy sense. You don't know who to trust, and I really love that. I'll never forget Winter Soldier. We was like, what the hell's going on in this movie? But that's what made it so good and so exciting. So I think they have the potential to just do something different with Secret Invasion. I'm hoping that I'm right.
That's the key word there, trust. And I think that that's going to be a big element in the series, though it's not going to match the scope of the Secret Invasion comic book storyline. I think in focusing more so on Samuel L. Jackson and even Ben Mendelsohn, I feel is going to
Hmm.
get a lot of prominence and positioning here. We're really going to tell a high stakes emotional human drama. And I'm really, really
Yes.
excited about that. And I'm going to reference it again, as I did earlier. That first trailer gave me the vibes of my third favorite TV show from last year, Andor. I got the same
Hmm.
vibes of like, oh, this feels a little bit different. And so I think that we have the potential to be on the precipice of possibly the best Disney Plus Marvel show that they've
I hope
created.
so.
I
Hmm.
really hope so. And I know some of the scripts have been floating around. I've come across a couple of pundits and YouTubers who've read some stuff. I haven't tapped in as much myself to like explore to see what the spoilers are, but by all accounts, it sounds like it's going to be a great show. It's going to be worth
Hmm.
our time and worth watching. And like you said, we need that full hour because it will only be 6 episodes. And so, like, let's lean all the way in. Like, let's really take that time and pace this out in a way that's going to pay off over the course of those 6 hours that we get. So, can't wait for Secret Invasion. Hopefully, it does come early this spring. We don't have an official release date. They said early spring, but we don't quite know. But I imagine that we're probably going to see another trailer here really soon, and I'm hoping
Hmm.
to be a March or April release date. We'll have to see. Next on our list is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, again from Marvel Studios. We've already gotten the first trailer for this movie. Ironically enough, we're going to mention James Gunn here again, but on the Marvel side of things, he's coming back to finish out his Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. All the usual suspects will be back in this movie. Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Karen Gillian, Pom Clementieff, all of the family is back. This is going to be the final chapter of this iteration of the Guardians. They won't look like this anymore. And even Bautista himself, just a few weeks ago, confirmed this is the last time he's playing Drax. He said, I can't work out no more. I can't get swole. I'm 50 plus. It's too much. This makeup shit, I'm over it. I wanna go back and do what I did in Blade Runner. Real easy, come in for a couple of days and that's it. So I'm sad to see this iteration of the franchise go. I'm sad to see James Gunn go, but I have no doubt that this is going to be an emotionally satisfying payoff to some of my favorite characters and some of my favorite projects in the MCU ever. It's
Yeah.
been an exceptional ride, really, across the board, and even their integration into other projects, Avengers movies, and things of that nature. I think that they fit so well with just what's been established with the tone there. So I can't wait for it. I know there's going to be a lot of stuff to come out of it. Many new characters, the High Evolutionary,
Hmm.
movie. What's his name? Adam Warlock is
Adam
coming
Warlock.
in a big way.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot here. So definitely looking forward to it. But how do you feel about this being the final chapter, at least for this version of the Guardians, and what are you hoping to see out of it?
Yeah, man. Will Poulter got huge too. It's crazy. Man, what a time I will just continuously reminisce until this movie comes out about the first time I seen that Guardians movie, man. I worked at the movie theater. I got to see it a couple days early. It was in 3D. I wasn't a big I still wasn't the biggest fan of 3D at the time, but I was ready to watch it still in 3D. It was beautiful. I was like, what is this? Who made this? Are we sure this is Marvel? Like, I was asking so many questions. I'll never forget that magic that James Gunn made with that first movie, man. It was really something else. And for us to sit here and say that it's almost over, I think it's really sad. But I'm looking so much forward to at least we're at least privileged, I think, in that way to be getting a three and out. You know what I mean? We're still getting a trilogy of these movies from James Gunn with this amazing cast, with this family of characters and all tremendous actors and actresses across the board, man. I think it's really dope to even have these people in the same movie. This is another one of those ones where like you take Marvel out of it and you read it on paper and you're like, what is this? What movie is this? And then it just makes you even more interested when you figure out what it actually is, man. But what a ride it's been. I cannot wait to watch this film, man. Like you said, there's going to be so many more characters being introduced between the High Evolutionary and Adam Warlock, and I'm sure we'll see some more Cosmo in this movie. And I just really love Guardians, man. Again, we both of us played the game that came out last year, I think it was. It's just really been a ride with these characters, man. And we do know most of these characters will be exiting. We know there'll be a couple that'll be staying, but we also know a lot of them will be exiting. I don't think David Bautista will be the only one we see for the last time, and that makes me sad. Not only that, somebody's dying in this movie. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people think it's Rocket. I think it's a red herring. I think it may not be Rocket, but whatever it may be, it's going to be a sad, emotional ride. And more than that, I have a feeling it's going to be a good movie and a good send off to the Guardians that we know and love.
especially coming off of the backs of the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, which I know we both loved and set forth so many important developments with that team. The fact that they now own Nowhere, they're sort of the
Mm-hmm.
the overlords of that place. I don't want to say overlords, that sounds kind of menacing, but they're taking care of that place and using it as a essentially a planet for alien refugees. And so they're trying to, create homes for people who don't really have a place. And so you always get that sense of heart out of the Guardians. And so whatever threat is leveled against them and they have to overcome, it's going to be an interesting ride, but it's going to be pretty sad and pretty emotional across the board just because of what they've meant to I think a lot of people and just what they represent. They're unusual
Mm-hmm.
characters in a really unusual universe, but this team of misfits has done so much over the past 10 years. And so I have no doubt James Gunn is going to deliver another really emotionally satisfying payoff with the Guardians of the Galaxy film, this Volume 3 film that's coming out this May. Can't wait for it. The next one on our list, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which is on the Sony side of things. Sony Animation, of course, is coming back to deliver this sequel. I know we are both so excited about this one. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse from 2018, one of the greatest superhero films ever made, one of the greatest animated films ever made. It's already sort of revolutionized the way that we just perceive animation and we perceive superhero storytelling and how we perceive Spider-Man as a character. It just
Exactly.
accomplished so much and won an Academy
Mm-hmm.
Award. And so, of course, they were going to come back and do another one. We've talked a lot about this. They are essentially splitting this story into two films because Beyond the Spider-Verse will come out at some point in 2024. Right now, it's slated for March. There's a lot of new characters, a lot of new Spider-Man, all sorts of multiverses, all sorts of animation styles. It's going to be just so crazy. And I'm sure we are not even prepared mentally for what's in store for this film, but I'm here for it. I will say now that this is my most anticipated movie on this list out of anything, just because
Mm-hmm.
it's so proven and so much of a hot commodity in terms of where they're going to go with the story. And so everything that they do with Miles Morales and the crew, I'm sure is just going to be, it's going to be worthwhile. So I can't wait to see it when it comes out this June.
Yeah, man. I think what's underrated about this project too is a very specific name on here, and Kent Powers, man, the black man who is not only directing these films, but who was a writer on Soul and One Night in Miami, and he's done some Star Trek Discovery stuff, and just man, and what's crazy is that's not a lot of projects, but they're all very well known projects, well decorated projects at that. Between Soul, One Night in Miami, and now these two upcoming films and Across the Spider Verse and Beyond the Spider Verse, I think we're sleeping on him, kind of hopping onto this franchise as a director. But I think it's going to be great, man. Simple. I think it's going to be great. I talked about it before already, I think in our anticipated movie list, but we both had this poster, man, of all these goddamn spider people on it. And before Spider-Verse happened, we could probably point it to like two people on that poster and be like, I've seen them before in something. And now seeing Across the Spider-Verse and Beyond the Spider-Verse, I have no doubt, like if after we see this film, we could go home, look at our poster, and be like, we seen him, be able to cross all them off the list because it's really so many spider people out there, and this movie is going to give us a reason to see them and to see. It's more than just the story for this one. To be honest, for me, it's like not. It's seeing the characters, it's seeing the art style that they told us there's going to be a couple different art styles in here. It's just so much, man, and it's still being helmed by Miles Morales in the Black Superman or Black Spider-Man. So just excited across the board for this film. Like you said, my very utmost excitement goes to this one. I'm more excited for this than anything else on the list. And I can't wait till it comes out, man. It's going to be a W for sure.
Our next project on the list is another multiverse story, but we're shifting gears back to Marvel Studios, and that's Loki Season 2, which they have been filming for a few months now. It is slated to come out this year, this summer, in fact, as the follow-up to Loki Season 1. I think it's safe to say Loki Season 1 is easily my favorite of the Disney Plus series, just because of its consistency across the board, the implications that it had, introducing He Who Remains, which is a variant of Kang the Conqueror by Jonathan Majors, and Tom Hiddleston's performance, Owen
Mm-hmm.
Wilson, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, Sophia DiMartino, just a really phenomenal cast and just a really enthralling story. I couldn't wait to talk about Loki every week on this podcast. When we were reviewing it, that was the first time we were specifically focusing on a Marvel episode every week in our podcast, and it was such a moment in time to just
Mm-hmm.
like wait and see, like, are they really going to do this? Is it really going to be Kang the Conqueror? And to get that paid off was really exciting. And so what I'm most curious to see is how much this may or may not tie into Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, because
Mm.
the cliffhanger from Loki Season 1, spoiler alert if you've not seen it, very much points to the fact that Kang the Conqueror has conquered probably multiple universes at this point, and now Loki is in the universe that he's already conquered. There's statues everywhere. The
Yeah.
TVA looks a lot different. And so I'm just wondering if there's going to be a lot of narrative threads that are introduced in Quantumania and then paid off in Loki season 2, or if it might be a little bit more separate. But regardless of that, because we don't know it, I'm still very high on this and very much looking forward to what Loki season 2 is going to look like and what it means, and if it points to even more Loki storytelling. Because I don't know if they're going to do more seasons after this. I don't know if it's going to be, we're just going to come for a couple of seasons and that's going to wrap it up, or if they intend to continue the story after this upcoming season 2.
Man, if somebody finds a Miss Minutes dad hat, hit me up. I really want a Miss Minutes dad hat. But I'm excited to see her in Loki season 2 as well, man. Like you said, one of the best Marvel TV shows they've come out with, man, in amazing cast, amazing story to be telling. This was again season phase 4 was definitely the weird phase here for Marvel, and Loki was no exception. In fact, to me, it was kind of the jump start. WandaVision was a little bit more on the earth to me, versus Loki was like, where are we exactly? The TVA, of course, I know a little bit of things about it, but everyone didn't. And this is another opportunity to say, we're still here, we're still weird, and we got Tom Hiddleston to do it with us, man. And to give us, like you said, some of that connective tissue between what happens in Quantumania in this film, for me, is important. Like, you can't tell me this is Kang is over here and Kang is over here, and y'all not connecting the two stories somehow. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what makes me excited, is like, these are the two projects that are here that are very clearly connected to me. It's like, well, duh. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hope they're connected, and so I really hope they follow through with that. Shoot, there could even be a cameo in Quantumania we don't know about. There could be cameos in Loki that we don't know about. You know what I'm saying? There could be all kind of things. But I'm excited very much for Loki season 2 to see how it goes down. I do have a feeling Jonathan Majors could pop up in Loki season 2 somewhere.
I hope so.
Yeah, he can't just be a statue. You know what I mean? Like, show us Kang. If Kang has conquered this TVA, show us Kang. I really hope he's here. So I'm also pretty excited for Loki season 2.
No doubt. The next project on our list is another Marvel Studios film coming out this summer, July 28th. The Marvels, which we've known about for a few years now. It'll be directed by Nia DaCosta. She's coming off of Candyman. We have a slight premise for this. It says, quote, following the events of Ms. Marvel, Carol Danvers, Kamala Khan, and Monica Rambeau begin swapping places with each other every time they use their powers and must team up to figure out why, end quote. So that tells us a little bit about the movie, but we know that was going to kind of be the case based off of the finale of Ms. Marvel, in which we did get a cameo from Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, and she seemingly swapped places with Kamala Khan. They put on that bangle, that band, which has a lot of powers and can do some really, really mystical and magical things. And so now they're swapping places, but then we're going to throw in Monica Rambeau to the mix and really change up the formula of what's happening here. We're going to get multiple Captain Marvels with these mystical and magical powers, these really high concept powers that would seemingly make them stronger than almost every other character in the MCU, just because of what they're capable of and what they have at their disposal. But this is a really interesting one. I know the first Captain Marvel movie is not my favorite in the MCU. It's pretty average to me, but the fact that we're just going in an entirely different direction and this is like a mini team up movie is really cool. Samuel L. Jackson is also going to be in this film. So you talked about Loki and Quantumania connecting. Well, hell, now Secret Invasion in the Marvels, there has to be something there as well, I would think, right? And we have to see how Samuel Jackson's role in one is going to possibly influence the other. But I think that this is also going to be a low-key important one that we might be underestimating, but there's a lot to be excited about. And hopefully, just based off of how the first one and how I feel about that one, we can sort of exceed expectations and take this into a different place.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm very excited to see Monica Rambeau more than anything. We didn't get too much from her. We all shoot. In fact, they only hinted at in Miss Marvel that should be called Photon. I was like, wait a second, did they just say that? And I missed it. So I'm really looking forward to what she can bring to the table, along with these other two actresses. To be honest, they're all very different people, not just in character form, but in real life. You know what I'm saying? I can imagine none of these people can play the same people in any movie. Brie Larson, Iman Vellani, and Tiana Paris are probably getting worlds apart from the things they'll play in other movies outside of the MCU, which makes me excited to see how they will mesh together in these films and how their personalities will mesh together in these films. So pretty excited for the Marvels, man. Again, we still have yet to get that really, really good woman-driven movie, woman-led movie. So I'm very hopeful for the Marvels. Like I really need like a home run out of this because yeah, that's what I'm looking for out of the MCU is some of these smaller characters to get home runs in a lot of ways the same way that the Guardians did. You know, like we don't know these characters that well. Let's get us a home run. So I'm looking for that in the Marvels as well.
Absolutely. The next project on our list, again, is from Marvel Studios, and that's Ironheart, which is slated to come out this fall. Another Disney Plus original series. And we know very, very little about Ironheart at this point, but the character, of course, was introduced in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and we finally saw Dominique Thorne enter into the MCU as Riri Williams, and so we'll pick up her story. We know that she's an MIT student, of course, from Chicago. She's creating these really, really advanced technical suits that rivals what Tony Stark introduced into the MCU back when we first saw him in the first Iron Man. And so I would imagine, again, she's going to play of particular importance in terms of what the future iteration of the Avengers might look like and how they are able to combat whatever threat might lie ahead. The only other thing that we really know is that Anthony Ramos is in this series as well, and he has been confirmed to be playing Parker Robbins, aka the Hood, which is the villain of the series. And this villain in particular can tap into the dark and mystical arts and magic. And so he's going to be a really complex character, I think, in particular for Riri. But how do you feel about Ironheart? I know you're incredibly excited about it, and you were pretty high on her appearance in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. But based off of what we saw in that film and how we're going to transition into her own standalone series, what are you looking forward to the most out of the Ironheart show?
Man, what I'm looking forward to the most, I think, is really just being honest in down to earth about the character of Riri Williams, man. She has a really tragic story. I won't give any spoilers just in case it's in the show. But she is a dark character, but not only that, she is very simply a smart Black girl in college, like super extremely smart. Like you said, she goes to MIT. She's very influenced by Iron Man, which is again how we get the suit, how we get Ironheart, how we get Mark 1s, Mark 2s. And she's just dope in that way, man. And really I'm hoping they find a way for them to tell us how she not necessarily takes the mantle, because she doesn't become Iron Man, right? She becomes her own thing, but how she does slightly slide into the spot that Iron Man once sat in terms of being the smart mechanical engineer person that is a part of the team, that eventually she becomes an Avenger. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. Give us a very small story of how she's inspired by him. Give her villain, but make sure there's meaningful things in the in between. Because she's Black, don't shy away from any of the Blackness. Make sure, you still include those things, make it tasteful, care about her as a character, care about the show. And that's what I'm looking for, man, in Ironheart. I have an Ironheart keychain now. She's really dope. I've always been similar to her, which is why the reason I'm a Black engineer myself. So I'm just looking for a good story, man, and some dope superhero action.
There's a great opportunity here as well for them to do something that they just haven't done before, and that's tell a college story. They haven't done that yet. We haven't
Mm-hmm.
seen Spider-Man go to college yet in the MCU. We were just finishing off his high school years with Spider-Man No Way Home. And so the fact that they can lean into that and do something
That's
different
true.
because she's still at MIT based off of where we left off with her at the end of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I'm really, really curious to see how that's going to pan out because they can go on a campus and be in the dorm rooms, and we can see her continue to interact with her other classmates and how she's going to have to juggle that life versus this impending superhero life that she's going to have to take on. A lot of responsibility, of course, that comes with that. So very curious to see how they are able to execute that. The next one is an animated project, again, from Marvel Studios, X-Men 97, which we've heard a lot about at this point, is going to be the continuation, easy for me to say, the continuation of X-Men, the animated series, the popular X-Men series from the 90s. They are picking up in 1997, which is directly after the events of the final episode of X-Men in the animated series, if you are familiar. This is the one that, I think we're still a little unclear about in terms of its connectivity within the proper MCU, but they did show some concept art this past Comic-Con. They talked a little bit about the story and where they were going to go with it. A lot of the original voice cast is also coming back. And so it's one of the things that I never thought Marvel Studios would do. I never thought that they would sort of own this, but as they have increased and tapped in more to the animation space, I mean, why not go back to one of the most beloved animated cartoons that we've ever gotten, one that was so influential in the 90s and I think paved the way for a lot of their following animated series to come after that. So 97 should be great. It's slated to come out this fall. Hopefully it does hit that mark. I know that there's been a lot of shifts with their animated projects that we'll have to see how that shakes out, but it seems like that this one is going to be on track. But I have high hopes for this one just based off of, being a massive fan of that first animated series.
Man, it still, that opening theme of X-Men might still be the most iconic superhero theme. Like, I'm trying to think what's still more iconic. I don't think any song is still more iconic than the original X-Men theme, man. I actually ran into and met Jim Lee a couple months ago. I had to give him praise about X-Men and what he did with that show, man, and the opening sequence and things like that. It really does hold a spot in nerdom for me in very early X-Men adventures. A lot of people know X-Men is my favorite comic. I have literally an X-Men comic box full of X-Men comics.
I'm wearing a hoodie right now, just so y'all can see. Like, I'm a fan currently too.
Yeah. And so we are here, man, for all X-Men shenanigans and intros and all of it, man. And I think they really have an opportunity to do something dope with X-Men 97. Again, like you said, we don't know exactly what it is, but I just don't feel like them putting the song in Miss Marvel after telling us that she's a mutant, or I just don't feel like Professor X showing up in Multiverse of Madness and them playing the song there is an accident. In fact, in the yellow wheelchair, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like something is here. We don't know what it is yet, but we do know that it's coming this year, and so I'm excited for it. This is probably the thing. Low-key, I might be like, it's 2 or 3 on the list of excitement of what's going on here, man. So I really can't wait to see what they give us with X-Men 97.
Man, you're right. The indicators are certainly there with that theme music. Like, that is no accident on their part. So there must be some really big implications for what it's going to do and how it's going to sort of cross over and connect to the larger MCU. The next project is Kraven the Hunter on the Sony side of things. So this is the one live action movie that we can expect out of Sony this year. So this is going to be another Spider-Man spinoff character focused driven film that they're releasing this year. They've already done Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage, and then they had Morbius last year. Kraven the Hunter, of course, is one of Spider-Man's biggest rogues, a part of his rogues gallery. He's a big game hunter. He's also a conservationalist. He's a protector of the natural world, quote unquote. But he lives for the hunt. He is an animal lover, and that's really what he's all about, achieving the best and the biggest hunt possible. But you have to ask the question, how does this movie work without Spider-Man? I know we all asked that too with Venom and Morbius. Like, how do you make a story about a villain who's naturally supposed to be in opposition to our hero? I think that they had somewhat of a success story with Venom in terms of how they were able to do something a little bit different. But Venom has a entirely different level of popularity compared to a Morbius or a Kraven. Like, Venom is super popular and has often been integrated into hero stories and been more viewed as an anti-hero. Kraven,
for sure,
not so much. And so don't really know what to expect out of this. We only really know that the other cast members are Ariana DeBose, who is an incredible talent, Academy Award already. She is playing the love interest of Kraven, Calypso, who's a voodoo priestess. And so there's a couple of other characters. Kraven's half brother's going to be here as well. Again, just don't know what to expect, but we'll be there. We'll see it. Obviously, we're going to go watch it and just kind of be exposed to whatever's going to happen on screen just out of sheer curiosity. But how do you feel about this? And how do you just feel about the entire experiment from Sony and what they're doing with these spin-off focused movies? Because there are other projects coming in years. We talked about the Hypno Hustler a few weeks ago. And I don't know what we're going to do with that. But where are you right now, just the Sony side of things and their Marvel characters?
Man, like you said, it's been a weird ride, man. I do enjoy sitting in theater watching the Venom movies. Of course, they're not like masterpieces or anything, but they're very enjoyable movies. I like at least being in the theater when I watch them. Morbius, obviously, not so much. Not sure I ever touch that movie ever again in my life. But there is a little bit a part of me that says, like, just give us one and we'll understand. You know what I mean? Maybe give us one movie and we say, okay, that was a decent. And we again, outside of Venom, I'm skeptical that we'll say that right now, but I will say Kraven the Hunter, having Aaron Taylor Johnson in Ariana DeBose is pretty cool. Like, those are two people that's like, when they there to act. You know what I'm saying? No, they not there to do no BS. They not there to play no games. They there to act, and usually in something good. Those are people who usually are in pretty good movies. So I'm looking forward, I think, to not necessarily, I'm not like super excited for the film per se, but I am looking forward to see what Aaron Taylor Johnson can bring to Kraven the Hunter. And I am kind of interested how they spin this. Like you just said, what does this mean without Spider-Man? So I am that does pique my interest a little bit. Like, what are y'all about to do with this, kind of type thing. And so I think again, in it being an experiment, I am looking forward to it just a little bit, just to see what happens. Like you said, we'll be there. But other than that, man, who knows what we're going to get out of this thing? It is weird right now, but Sony believes in it. That doesn't mean we believe in it per se. But it's time for them to get us to buy in.
Just please, no more trash as post-credit scenes. The one in Morbius makes no sense at all. Like
0 out of 10.
0 sense. And so I just let's not do stuff like that. Like, let's really think and use some brain power to make this all connect in the way that they envision, but do so in a way that makes sense to us as an audience, because that's going to be important. We're going to pick holes and stuff that seems odd to us. We're going to shift gears again and talk about a video game coming out this year, quite possibly one of the biggest video games that's going to release this year, coming out of Insomniac, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, which of course is the sequel to the hugely successful 2018 Spider-Man game, and also a sequel to Spider-Man Miles Morales, which came out in 2020 as a launch title with the PlayStation 5. So this is going to take both Miles Morales and Peter Parker and team them up together. And speaking of Venom, it looks like and appears he will be at least the central antagonist of this new stories. Of course, with the video game, you can expect other rogues gallery villains to pop up, and I'm sure that they are building to something even bigger if you've played the game and seen some of the post-credit sequences. But it looks like villain is going to be the big bad of this one. I mean, what is there to really say about this beyond the fact that the first Spider-Man game might be the greatest superhero game ever made? You can argue, some other cases. I know Arkham is huge. I love Arkham in that series, but that first Spider-Man game was really, really amazing and just such an incredible work of art. And so this next one, just can't wait for it. Just want to see the whole dynamic between Miles and Peter. Like, what's that going to be like to play both of them at the same time? Because we didn't get a chance to really experience that quite yet, because Miles Morales was really focusing on him, and Peter Parker went overseas and took a little vacation, and he just left Miles to fend for himself, which was kind of cruel. But I can't wait to see just like where the story picks up and how they're just going to continue to unfold this and have it exist in its own pocket universe. That's kind of a good thing about this, is that, the Spider-Man game doesn't tie into movies or TV. Like it's its own thing. So they can really just like do whatever they want and take the story wherever they want to go.
Yeah, man. It'd be one thing if it was like, oh, Spider-Man 1 was good. I don't know if they can do it again. And then Miles Morales comes out and you're like, damn, y'all did it again. Pretty fast too at that. And so it makes you even really, it says Spider-Man 2. They should be calling this thing Spider-Man 3. Miles was way longer than I thought it was going to be. Like, I'm very surprised it only says 2, but I know this thing is going to be fire, man. Only thing I'm still disappointed about, y'all going to keep hearing my mouth about multiplayer games, but if you got Peter Parker and Miles Morales in the same game, I should be able to do hood rat Spider-Man swing shit with my friend, is all I'm saying. But no, I'm pretty excited for it, man. Tony Todd being involved, Venom being involved, man. Let's up the ante a little bit. That seems like what they're going to do here. And in fact, now they get to make this completely on PS5 if they want. You know what I mean? Like, this could be a PS5 exclusive if they really want it to be.
Sure.
The last gen is kind of fading away. The reason I bought a PS5 was to play Miles Morales. You know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of had to. And so I'm hoping they kind of follow the same suit, make the graphics just fire as can be, make the story fire as can be. Both characters, the darkness of it all. I think we're in store for another treat with Marvel Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac, man. And yeah, I just think it's going to be dope. So we have to see.
Yeah, PS5 exclusivity would really help it live up to its full potential if that were to be the case. So I do hope, because selfishly, I know we both can say we have PS5s. Get on the bandwagon and get one if you don't got it. They are no longer having a shortage of them. They are widely available. So PS5 before the holiday season. Let's quickly talk about some other games that are coming out beyond this year, though, because there are a lot of Marvel projects in terms of gaming that are on the horizon. We've mentioned a few of these, but Insomniac is also currently working on a Wolverine game, which, Jesus Christmas, that is, I can't even envision the amazing shit we're going to see out of that game, because my faith is fully placed in them just based off of what they've done with Spider-Man. So there's no reason to believe that Wolverine isn't going to be great. We also have heard a lot about this untitled Iron Man game, which is going to be coming from EA Motive. That should be really interesting, just considering the gameplay aspect of it, just the fact that
Yeah,
you're going to have to fly, you're going to have all these different suits, the mark
it's a lot.
the suits there's a lot
Hmm.
to consider. And then last but certainly not least, I know we talked about this a while ago back when Disney had their D23 day, the untitled upcoming game between Captain America and Black Panther. Those are going to be the two protagonists of that game. It's going to take place during World War II, and it's coming out of Skydance, which is also equally interesting because I believe this is their first major video game that they're developing, and this is going to be a period piece. It's going to be a historical game. We're going back in time to the previous T'Chaka, not T'Challa of the current day, but T'Chaka, his father, and we're going to focus on the relationship between him and Steve Rogers. So,
His grandfather, Azuri, actually.
oh, his grandfather. Sorry, so his yeah,
Hmm.
that would make sense all the way back to World War II. So there's just a lot to look forward to on the video game front for Marvel. I mean, what excites you the most out of just these upcoming projects that are currently being worked on? We don't have solid release dates yet, but they're definitely on the horizon and being developed at this current moment.
It depends. If this Wolverine game is rated M, absolutely that one. It won't even be close, to be honest, if Wolverine is rated M. You telling me I can there's blood and I'm Wolverine and I'm doing all this crazy stuff with my claws, it'd be that one absolutely for sure. Of course, co-second. I don't even know what Captain America and Black Panther game means 100%, but Amy Hennings, this is her game. Amy Hennings used to be one of the big officers. I forgot which one, but she used to be part of Nighty Dog actually. And so you telling me this the woman, one of the people that helped make either Uncharted and Last of Us is coming in to make Captain America and Black Panther. I think that's pretty cool, depending on how they do it, man. So it really depends on what these games look like. I'll be able to better tell after trailers. Right now, I'd probably say Wolverine though.
Yeah, Wolverine just has the highest ceiling of where you could go. We don't really have
Absolutely.
clarity on connectivity either, if it'll somewhat tie into the Spider-Man franchise. I don't know if I feel strongly either way just yet, because
Hmm.
I think there's a great case for both. But either way, as you said, the rating is gonna tell us a lot, and just the story, and just like what type of version of Wolverine are we gonna see? Because if you
Mm,
have Wolverine, that means you have mutants. There has to be something there.
that's
And so
true.
if it is unconnected to the Spider-Man universe, you might be able to have a little bit more flexibility with the stories that you tell with mutants and maybe some other characters from X-Men or Brotherhood, factions that we might see pop
Hmm.
up at a certain point in time.
Wow.
So we'll have to see. A couple of other projects, though, that I do want to quickly just mention from Marvel Studios. They were initially slated for 2023, but at this point in time, kind of unsure if they're actually going to come out this year. But we do want to highlight them just in case. Going to cover our ass if they do actually come out this year. What If Season 2, Echo, and Agatha Coven of Chaos. Now, over the past few weeks, there have been some stories, some rumors swirling about some of these series being delayed, possibly
Hmm.
as far as to 2024, perhaps in the case of Echo. Agatha Coven of Chaos is currently filming right now. They just started filming. It was initially slated for winter 2023, which would be the end of this year. What If Season 2 was slated for early 2023? Again, it's right now, early 2023, and we have not seen any trailers. We don't really have any promo material. So it could come out, or they might delay it further into the year. And Echo, I think we've probably heard a lot about recently. There were some stories swirling that there are a lot of reshoots happening with that series, a lot of rewrites. They have already filmed the first round of filming, like the main sort of, I guess, amount of filming that they had to do recently with photography
Hmm.
has wrapped up, but it appears that they might go back to not the drawing board, but they might go do some pickups and some additional filming, which would put it off quite significantly, perhaps into 2024. But right now, it looks like it might appear in late 2023. How are you feeling about these projects outside of just the possible delays that might exist with them? Because I think this is kind of the nature of where we are with things right now. Just the
Hmm.
conversation around visual effects and the amount of work that it takes, and the fact that they are also considering how much stuff we get in a year. Because if we were to get everything on this list from Marvel Studios in 2023, we're talking like 12 projects, which is
Project a month.
more than last year, which is a lot. And
It's a
so
lot.
they might even just be considering moves here just to take off something from the slate, just so that we're not inundated with too much, because we've already complained about there being too much. So maybe that's a reason too.
Hmm.
How do you feel about respectively each of these projects at this point?
Yeah, I think I am a little bit of the mindset to just slow down and give us the best possible product. I've always kind of been of that mindset, especially when so many of these other things are someone already promised, right? Already have release dates. I think what Marvel also needs to realize is that to use Sony as a crutch in some ways as work that you don't have to do. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm.
if Spider-Man is coming out, it's okay for you not to come out with anything that month. You know what I'm saying? Or it's okay for you to slow down a little bit now that they do have other, at least Marvel projects, know that they exist and be like, okay, we can take our time a little bit, knowing that Sony has at least something to give the people as it comes out. So I
You
think
couldn't tell
they
that
should
to
sit on
Bob
that.
Chapek. He wouldn't hear that shit. He's like, no, I
Oh
want something
no,
every month, goddamn it.
from us and us only. But I think there's perfect competition there, right? If Sony's putting out Marvel stuff, we're Marvel too. You know what I'm saying? Like Marvel Studios to be like, we're Marvel too, and say, sure, we may not get, all the money from that, but we shouldn't also have to compete with that. You know what I mean? We should use that as leverage to give us more time to make our projects better. So I'm hoping that that's something that they decide to do. But I'm still, yeah, I'm very skeptical as well that these things will come out. The only thing I will say is that Agatha does feel, very similar to what they did with Werewolf by Night. Agatha does feel something that could be seasonal. Like they could start at Agatha very end of October, very early November as a TV show and be like, surprise, we have this thing that we've kind of been working on a long time. We just haven't said anything about. That's the one that I would be like, okay, maybe they might do this thing. But other than
Sure.
that, I don't really see it happening.
Yeah, they don't really have a winter play right now. Everything says like fall, these are
Exactly.
just really ambiguous late 2023. We don't exactly know what that means, but that could be a winter play, as you said, for the Agatha Coven of Chaos. And that is filming. And so I think the Echo series probably has a little bit more importance and significance because of the inclusion of both Daredevil and Kingpin, which
For sure.
Daredevil Born Again is about to be filming really soon if they're not already, and that's going to be coming out next year as well. I wonder if the impact will be felt if they're released out of order in terms of what we're going to
Mm,
see. Like I don't know if we need to see Echo first before we see Born Again. Maybe
right.
not, but perhaps we do, and so maybe we'll get some clarity on that in the near future. And then what if season two? I mean, look, it's animation. That shit gets delayed all the
Hey,
time.
y'all
It's
just do what you got to do.
the nature of the work. It's a lot to do.
Do what
Just
you got to do. Yeah.
ask Mark over at Invincible. It takes a long time, y'all. So we'll have to see. But hopefully we do get at least one of these projects. But as you said, let's just, slow down and take our time. We don't have to do too much because
Hmm.
they might not get the money from Sony, but they get those merchandise sales. They do get that shit. So they're gonna reap the benefits
Facts.
somehow, some way, regardless of
Hmm.
what comes out in a respective month. But we'll certainly have to see. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for this episode of Two Black Nerds. Thank you again, of course, for tuning into another podcast.